TotalModder here, and right now I'm going to show you how to make a simple function to check player input and do some actions when input is given. So to do that, we're going to go down here to the update function, and we're going to do a simple if statement. And to do this, we're going to use the API's input manager class, which monitors all input across from the mouse buttons, the scroll wheel, the Xbox 360 gamepad, and of course your keyboard. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is in the update function, create an if statement. If and input manager dot, and you'll see a whole bunch of functions here that monitor input all the way from the scroll wheel to the mouse buttons, and like I said, and there's a variable which actually returns whether or not the player is currently using a Xbox 360 gamepad or not, which if they're not, then you'd be using a keyboard, so that's pretty useful. And let's get onto this. And in the input manager, the function that you're going to want to use to check whether or not a button was pressed, and I mean by pressed I mean held down successfully and released up successfully one single time, that would be considered as a single button press. The function to do that would be is button released new. And this takes two parameters, a player index and the button. So for the player index, we're just going to pass through the player index of 1. And for the button, we're going to pass through the button of A, the A button on the controller. Now we want to do an OR statement because I want to do this for the controller and the keyboard. So we're going to do an OR statement, or input manager dot is key released new. It's almost the same thing, except for keyboard it would be key. If key is released new, and same kind of parameters, player index.1, but this takes a keys parameter for obvious reasons. So we're going to do keys.in, the in key. So this will execute this code if the A button or the in key is completely pressed successfully one time. So let's do a simple notification. This.game.add notification. You pressed the button, local recipient. And if we build this project and drop it from our debug folder back into our TotalMiner Steam folder or mods folder, and we boot up TotalMiner and we activate our mod, load into the world. And if we go around in the world, and if I click the A button on my controller, it'll say you pressed the button. And then if I click the in key on my keyboard, it'll do the exact same thing, you pressed the button. So now that we know that, let's make a simple function that will draw some text to the center of the screen when we have the A button or the in key currently held down. And we won't want to draw this in the update function, since that's not really like practical in how you should do programming, I would think, in XNA. You would want to draw things to the screen in the draw function and not the update function. Although the update function will handle our logic, so the draw function will not handle whether or not we have input. So to do that, to cross the two, we need to create a variable up here, public bool draw text now equals false. Okay, then we're going to go up here and do if this dot draw text now, then we're going to do a core globals dot sprite batch dot begin and core globals dot sprite batch dot end, and all of our draw code must go in between here. If you know about XNA, then you know about this, but if you don't, when you draw something with the sprite batch, it must be in between the begin and end. Of course, the begin takes multiple overloads, but we'll get into that in a later tutorial, or you can go visit XNA resources online. So if draw text now, then we want to do core globals dot sprite batch dot draw string centered, and we want to pass through the sprite font of core globals dot game font, and we want to pass through the text you are pressing a button, and we'll float y of 0f and color of color.black, and a scale of I don't know, 1f. Hopefully that's big enough. Okay, now if draw text is true, then it will draw our string, but draw text is false, so we need to actually get the logic to actually set that. So we can do if input manager dot is key, or actually is button pressed. Now is button pressed will return true if a button is currently being held down until it is let up. So if the button is being held down, player index of 1 again, and the buttons of A, or the input manager dot is key pressed, player index of 1 and keys of dot n. Okay, then do this dot draw text now equals true, and then we want to do an else statement. Say else if neither of these are true, then this dot draw text now equals false. If the A button's being held down, then it'll be true. If the N key is being held down, it'll be true. If neither of them are being held down, then this will return false and this won't draw. So we rebuild our solution and drag our DLL back into our mods folder and restart TotalMiner. And again, make sure to activate your mod. It's really aggravating when you get into the game and you realize you didn't activate your mod. Okay, now if we go in here and we hold down the A key or A button, it should say you are pressing a button. And if we let go, it'll disappear and so on. And then if we hold down the N key, it'll do the exact same thing.